Hello, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the No.Ordinary.Joe podcast or the No.Ordinary.Joe show, depending on whether you're listening to this on a podcast catcher or on YouTube. And if you want to reach out to me, I would say look me up on Twitter at _No.Ordinary.Joe_ or on YouTube, that's No.Ordinary.Joe, or on Facebook, which is Fatherhood is Sacred Malki Chapter, Malki, and that's another group page where you can find a lot of the other classes and things that I do and talk about. So I'd just like to welcome everybody. And as we get started tonight, I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about resiliency. I know last time we spoke, or last time you guys listened to me, I was talking about hope and courage and choices and a lot of the it's that hold us back in life and the it's that drive us. Well, I want to continue that, but I want to talk about resiliency. I don't want to just talk about the hangups. I want to talk about how we get over some of those things that hold us back in life. And a big part of that is just being resilient, is having resiliency. And a lot of people might wonder, like, what does resiliency even mean? Like, what does it mean to be resilient? Well, resiliency mainly is the ability to cope with something instead of falling apart. When you talk about resilient materials, it's things that can bend, that can fold, that are very flexible, but they're able to come back to their original form, their original shape. So when we talk about resiliency, like I said, it's the things that can bend but don't break, and being able to come back to their normal form. You know, a lot of people think of resiliency as being strong, tough, hardy, quick to recover, quick to bounce back, being capable of withstanding shock without permanent deformation or rupture, or tending to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. You know, other words that can be used to describe resilient are elastic, springy, flexible, supple, meaning able to endure strain without being permanently injured. But of course, these are all things that physically describe what resiliency is. They don't actually describe emotional resiliency, because we all know the human body's pretty resilient. We fall down, we bruise, we get back up, we heal, and we're able to go. We eat food, we can get sick, but we recover. So physical resiliency is one thing, but what about emotional resiliency? So resiliency is the psychological strength to cope instead of falling apart. People with strong resiliency can maintain their cool even in disastrous situations. It doesn't mean they don't feel stress or get scared or worry or fail. It simply means they have the ability to handle it instead of running away from it or emotionally shutting down. Resilience is not just about gritting your teeth and getting through or sucking it up. Instead, it's about honoring our need to ask for and receive help. It is more important to remember that you're not going at it alone. There is always someone who can help, and there is always hope. So being resilient is the ability to thrive instead of being traumatized. And a lot of people think, well, resilience, you know, it's this great, amazing thing, and some people are born with it, some people aren't. Well, honestly, all of us are resilient in different ways. It just matters how big of the trauma you're going through. And I like to oversimplify things. Like, I like to say things that are huge oversimplifications of what we're really talking about. But we learn resilience our entire lives, and we're practicing resilience our entire lives. One of the things we do as we're growing up and we're living is we figure out answers to problems, right? Like when we're kids and say you have peanut butter, you want a peanut butter sandwich, and you run out of bread. Well, you try to figure out a way to have that sandwich, right? Like me, you know, growing up in the Mexican household, I just grabbed a tortilla, heated it up, and I had a peanut butter and tortilla burrito, I guess. But that's a very, very oversimplification of resilience. It is quite simply finding a way to solve a problem that is holding you back. If you're hungry, figure out what to eat. For a lot of parents out there, you come home from work, you don't know what to do, you're stressed out, kids are hungry, you had a bad day, and somebody's resilience might just be like, you know what, forget it, I'm just ordering Domino's. Or somebody else might look in the kitchen and say, you know what, I'm making spaghetti. You know, it's the ability to make things happen and to get through that, instead of just throwing your hands in the air and locking yourself in the bedroom and saying, forget it, I give up, eat taquitos. So resilience is really practiced in us every part of every day and in every part of our life. It just means having the strength to get through it. Now, it's not easy, and I'm not saying that, you know, every obstacle that comes up, you're going to be able to just jump in and say, I've got this, I can do this, and everything's going to be great. It'd be nice to be able to do that, but unfortunately, that doesn't really happen in life. You know, a lot of times we hit that speed bump and we just freak out. We don't know what to do. But again, like I said before, a big part of resilience is also asking for help and being resilient enough to go and find resources that are going to help you get out of the situation you're in. Why does being resilient matter in life? Well, someone who exercises resilience grows stronger through adversity. It's like resilience is a muscle that you're exercising, and you become more resilient by practicing resilience. It gives a person the capacity to deal with things and adapt in a positive way. And resilient people live longer because they have a sense of purpose. They haven't given up hope, like we had spoke about previously. People who've given up hope are the people that unfortunately, you just see them on the side of the road, you know, drinking their life away, or friends and family who are just drinking or smoking their life away because they've given up on everything. Well, a resilient person sees beyond that. And in saying seeing beyond that, a resilient person has to have a couple things. We talked about hope, we talked about courage, we've talked about making good choices, you know, all of these different things. But something else that we need to have is vision. And when I say vision, I mean it's a vision for the future. It's a vision for a better life. You know, it's part of that hope. And it's being able to look into the future and say, you know what, I really, really want this, and this is what I want to do and where I want to go in life. However, that vision has to be realistic. It has to be achievable goals that you can have and you want, and things that you can actually do. Like, if you have a third grade education and you can barely read and write and you can barely do basic math, but you want to be a business owner, how are you going to be able to read the contracts and keep your books if you can barely read, write, and do math? So having that ultimate vision of wanting to be a business owner and owning your own company and making things and making money that way, that's great, that's fine. But also realize that there's a lot of things that need to be done from right now when you say, I want to do that, until you get to that point. And those things are, you have to improve your reading, you have to improve your writing, you have to improve your math skills, you have to improve your interpersonal skills. There's a lot of education and self-growth that are going to take place. And you might not be a business owner next month, 6 months from now, next year. It might take years for you to get to that point. But I'm saying it's achievable, but realize that if that's your vision, you got to set goals for yourself, and you have to have milestones and set milestones that you can achieve in order to get there. A bad vision is like, I got 20 bucks, I'm going to go to the liquor store and I'm going to buy $20 worth of lotto scratchers and expecting to win $150,000. It does happen for some people, but quite honestly, it's probably not going to happen for us. And that's really not a great vision in life, because it takes a lot of luck for that to happen. So having vision has to be something that you can attain, and you can make that achievement yourself. And another part about vision is that feeds into your hope. That gives you a direction in life, that helps you determine where you're going. Because a person who doesn't have a vision is kind of like a rudderless ship. You know, it's like a rudderless sailboat. The wind is just going to blow that boat all over the ocean, to and fro and wherever it wants to blow it. And there's no real sense of direction or purpose. It just exists on the ocean. Now, how many of us know people like that? They wake up every day and they just live party to party. They live drink to drink. They just live moment to moment. And they really don't do anything in life. And their life is just drama and trauma and excuses. And there's so many reasons they can't be successful, but they really haven't done anything. A lot of us know people like that. And again, you know, they don't really have a vision for their lives, and they've given up hope for a better life. They just simply accept it, and they will, you know, say that great saying, It is what it is, you know. And with that vision, you have to stop believing the lies that we tell ourselves. My vision as a child was to go to college. But unfortunately, my family, my belief was my family doesn't go to college. My family doesn't have the money for college. There's no way I can get to college and achieve an education, because when I would talk about it, people would laugh about it. So what am I supposed to do when you're a kid and you talk about college and everyone's like, oh man, how are you going to afford that? Or we don't go to college, or you're being told directly or indirectly that these are things that your family doesn't do or our community doesn't do. So then that vision goes away. I've believed lies that people have told me that this isn't something we can achieve. Fortunately enough, though, at the age of 30, I decided to actually go to college, and I got my degree at 34, and I got an MBA at 39. So it was achievable, and I ended up achieving that goal 12 years after I should have graduated high school. When I was young and smart and could have easily done college. Instead, I did it when I was older with a whole family, with a wife, 3 kids, pretty much working a full-time job and taking a full load in school. And I was able to achieve it. Why? Because I had that vision. I knew what I wanted to do, but it took me until 30 to get there. And I had this vision of who I wanted to be as a husband, who I wanted to be as a father, what I wanted my family to look like, and what I wanted my education to look like. And I even told myself, when I get a bachelor's degree, I want a master's degree. And I achieved those goals. Was it easy? Not at all. I wanted to quit college and drop out of college so many times, but luckily, thankfully, I was told so graciously and lovingly by my wife that I had moved us all the way from California to Tennessee, and she would inflict bodily harm on me if I dropped out of college. Um, Obviously, she meant that lovingly, but she actually supported me. She's saying no. She meant it, 100% meant to. She's going to injure me. That's 21 years of marriage right there. The truth comes out. But I did have that vision, and she supported me the whole way. So I'm very lucky in the sense that I was able to do that. But she also had that vision of, this is what our life's going to be, and we're able to accept that, all the hard work and dedication it took to get there. So vision is huge, huge, huge when it comes to resiliency, because what happens with that vision is, once you start thinking about it, it starts in your head, and you start thinking, this is what I want, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to achieve. And then what happens is it moves to your heart. It moves out of your head and it moves to your heart, and it no longer becomes a want, like I want to do this. It turns into desire, and you desire to do something. You desire to be successful. You desire to have and make this vision come true. And as you guys know, like when you want something, like, oh, you can want a bag of chips, but when you truly desire something, you're going to go after it, and you're going to put the effort in, and you're going to sacrifice for it in order to achieve it. For husbands and wives, husbands, when you looked at your wife, you looked at your spouse, when you guys were single, you saw her and you desired her, and you were determined in order to win that person's heart over. Same for you ladies, you looked at your husband and desired him. So it's more than just like, oh, cool, I like that person, they're cute. Instead, it was, I really like this person, I want this person in my life. And then we all change, in one way or another for that person, because we want that person to be happy. We desire their happiness. We desire to be happy. They desire our happiness for us. And you guys make this happy, healthy relationship because you have a vision for a happy and healthy family. And that's, a very simplified version of vision. It's complex, but it's simple. It's just having that desire to achieve something in life, but having a realistic goal that you're going to achieve. All right, so we talked a lot about vision right there. So let's get into another part of resilience. It's faith. And a lot of people, when you ask them like, hey, could you define faith? They're going to say that's a belief in something that you cannot see, and faith is that's true. That's partially true. Faith is just a little bit more than that. Faith is the belief in something, but it's also an action. So like I would say, if you walk into a room and you're tired and you see a chair sitting in the room, you're going to want to go and sit in that chair, right? Well, faith is actually going and sitting in that chair because you believe it's going to hold you up, and you're going to sit in it and hope that it holds you up. And that's a very, very, very simplified version of faith. That's also like if I were to give you seed and tell you, hey, that's corn. And if you plant the corn and nourish the corn, it's going to grow up and give you, it's going to produce a nice harvest. Well, it's more than simply believing. You're going to take the corn, you're going to plant the corn, and you're going to grow corn. So faith is the belief and an action, that supports that faith. And that's, like I said, that's a very, very simplified version of faith, but it is something that we have to have. And with vision and with hope, it's much more than hope, but faith is saying like, okay, if I do all of this stuff and I have this vision and I do everything that it takes to achieve this vision, that I will achieve what I want to achieve. Faith is, when you work hard, that the belief that you're going to be rewarded for it. So faith is that action. Faith is working hard. And you have to exercise it. Just like resilience, you have to go through hard times to become more resilient. You exercise your faith by believing and taking action. And the more you exercise your faith, just like a muscle, like if you were to, break your shoulder and your right arm gets put in a sling and you don't exercise that arm, when you take the sling off in say 3 months, your muscles are going to be weak and they're not going to be as strong as your other arm. So with faith, it has to be practiced. You have to exercise faith, just like you exercise hope, just like you exercise, practice your vision. You have to practice faith to build the muscle, to build up the strength of your faith, and you're going to see results in your faith. I know people who are the happiest people in the world, and they are the most faithful people. Like they always, always, always believe in other people. They always, always, always believe there will be a great outcome to their actions. Now that's tough for me because I am not I am faithful. I'm faithful in my marriage. I'm faithful in my friendships. But growing up, I did not have a lot of faith in other people. I didn't want to say I'm not a faithful person because that just sounds bad. But I did not have a lot of faith in other people because the people around me let me down, right? When you have an alcoholic dad, a drug addict mother, and you're going through all of this drama in your life and people around you, they just want to get what they can get from you. You cannot trust people. So how can you have faith when you cannot trust the people around you, especially the people who are required to love you, your parents, right? Like they gave life to you. They should love you more than anyone in the world, and they should trust you more than anyone, or you should be able to trust them more than anyone in the world. And they should be the ones who you have the most faith in. But unfortunately, sometimes in this world, a lot of times in this world, they fail us. And so we lose faith and we lose that belief that if we work hard, that our vision is attainable. We start to lie to ourselves because we have no faith. And we start to say, well, why is it even worth it? Why should I even try? And then we start to lose hope. And then we just give up. So are you guys seeing how all of these things are tied together? You have to have hope. You have to have vision. You have to have faith. You have to have courage to, take that first step. You have to have all of these things to build resilience and to be able to become successful. And everybody's story is different. Like I know my story is crazy. I've talked about it in the last episode. However, I know there's people out there who have a way, way worse story and have gone through things I can't even imagine and have experienced so much more loss and trauma than I could ever even imagine. And so I know it's not easy. So I can just speak from my experience. But if you are one of those people and you're struggling with something, reach out to me. Hit me up on Facebook, hit me up on YouTube, send me a message on Twitter, DM me or just tweet out to me, whatever. And I would love to contact you and connect with you to go through some of this stuff. And guess what? Maybe I can learn from you as much as you guys are learning from me. But all of these things are connected, and we have to have resilience. So you have to be able to work towards resilience. So here's a little bit of a description of somebody you may know who struggles who isn't very resilient. They have a lack of resilience in their life. They have a lack of faith, a lack of hope, a lack of courage, like they're struggling with all these things. So a person who doesn't have resilience or isn't very resilient, they can't calm themselves down and focus on a useful action in a crisis. That's the person you always see in the movies who, when the baby's being born, they're running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and you send them to the kitchen to boil hot water. And I'm going to tell you guys a secret. The only reason we send that person to the kitchen to boil water is to get them out of the room and calm them down, because they're doing something useful, or at least they think they are. We really don't need boiling water. They're just, doing something. So, but they're unable to calm themselves down and focus and be useful in a crisis. They see difficulties or roadblocks as permanent, and they have no expectation of being able to overcome it. Again, hopeless, right? They cannot tolerate uncertainty or adapt to new developments. These are the people who they're just anxious. They have anxiety, like anything happens that, was unexpected, they totally freak out. Their inability to laugh at themselves and be able to joke about themselves, and they have a poor self-image of themselves. They're, the person who apologizes for every little thing when they don't need to, but everything's, I'm sorry, I didn't, okay, I'm sorry. And the person who thinks they're impeding on your life or they're imposing on you when they're really not, because they don't have a lot of resiliency. They have a lack of curiosity. They don't want to try new things. They're like, nope, nope, can't do it. And they're just unwilling or, to budge and just try something new. And this could even be myself. Like I looked at that one and thought about myself when I was younger, and I had lost my business, and I was getting all these phone calls from bill collectors, and I just wasn't answering my phone because I was afraid to talk to them. I was afraid of the outcome. Like, oh my gosh, like I knew I owed them money, but I just was scared to talk to the person on the phone. I just didn't want to approach it until finally I did. And I spoke with a lady, and she helped me out. And I was so afraid of the outcome, or I was just so afraid to talk to that person. Like I hated even calling doctor's offices to schedule appointments and things, because that made me uncomfortable. And that's kind of a fear of a new thing. But once you start doing those things and making those phone calls and talking to doctors or talking to schools or talking to bill collectors, that starts to go away, because that's a form of resilience. Also, people who lack resilience, they're unable to listen or empathize with people. They're the ones who, they don't care. They don't care what your problems are. Just, they have zero empathy for people. And we know people like that. And another thing is they're unable to see silver linings or make use of these challenges. So these are people who, when something bad happens, they just turn into Eeyore and, woe is me, I'm just sad. And they can't turn into Tigger. They refuse to turn into Tigger in that situation, who's just always happy. And no matter what happens, Tigger's excited. Like, okay, hey, you know what? I'm going through this. I'm going to jump over that. Tiggers do what Tiggers do. And, which is a lie. So that dude's crazy. But those people they refuse to see the silver lining or any good possible outcome. The pessimist, which was me for a lot of years. Like if you talk to me, my mind automatically went worst case scenario. What's the worst that's going to happen? Well, of course, that is what's going to happen. So for a long time in my life, I was not a very resilient person. It took me years to grow and years to get where I wanted to get in life. So all of these things, faith, resiliency, all of these things tie together. And one thing I found, doing research about this, and I really like this, is this lady, Kathy Hammond at the University of London, did a study, and she came up with like basically 12 things to help you gain resiliency, 12 things that help you with resiliency. And I like this, so I want to go ahead and share it with you guys. One was feed your spirit. Practicing spirituality plays an important role in overcoming tragedy. For example, prayer, gratitude, reading scriptures, or other inspirational words. These things provide a feeling of connectedness and grounding Being a part of a group that shares your belief makes this tool even stronger. So that could be, going to church, going to synagogue, going to mosque. You're around other people of faith who can help uplift you. If you're a Native American like I am, it's a belief in the creator. It's not necessarily a religious thing, but it's that spiritual belief that there's a higher entity out there that created you, designed you, and cares for you. So spirituality does play a big role in it. Maybe not so much organized religion in your life, but spirituality plays a role. Friendship. And these could just be like that simple friend at work you have coffee with, hey, you share a joke with, or those people who you spend hours talking to. But make sure it's a give and take friendship. It's not a 50-50 friendship. It's a 100-100 friendship where you guys are giving your best to each other all the time, not getting together and being negative and being drama and all you're doing is complaining about people, though that can be fun sometimes. But it's an uplifting friendship where you care for them, they care for you, and you just both want to see the best for each other. Practice courage. Now, courage, we talked about last time. Courage isn't the absence of fear. Courage is actually being afraid, but being willing to do what it takes to accomplish that goal, to stand up for yourself, to stand up for other people. So it's the decision to face that fear and try to overcome it. Know your moral compass. Now, this is a hugely important one. Your moral compass is the inner guide that distinguishes right from wrong. Morals strengthen a person's resolve in difficult times. This means you've been compelled to do what's right, even when you feel like you can't. Develop a purpose. Your vision. Having a purpose in life or a vision in life is what gets us out of bed in the morning. The stronger the sense of purpose, the greater the resilience. Having a purpose doesn't have to be a grand overture or huge undertaking, although it can be. It just needs to be a fire burning in your heart like a pilot light, or desire, like we spoke about. Take ownership of what is yours. Psychology calls this developing an internal locus of control. People who've been traumatized feel lost without any control. It's true, there are many things we can't control, but there are many things that we can. Reclaiming what belongs to you builds resilience. Like we had talked about last time, forgiveness. You don't forgive for that other person, you forgive for yourself. You forgive all of that, what happened to you, not because you want that person to be forgiven. You're forgiving them because you're no longer going to let that pain, that injustice, you're no longer allowing that to control you. So taking ownership of what is yours is that it's forgiving and moving beyond it. Grow healthy attitudes. Man, the attitude of gratitude is such an amazing thing. To quote my buddy Al Pooley, he talks about having that attitude of gratitude, being thankful, being positive, having a growth mindset. A growth mindset looks at life's difficulties as challenges instead of roadblocks. This empowers action and problem solving instead of self-pity or victim thinking. Growing healthy attitudes is done by reprogramming the mind and just being thankful. So we definitely want to develop that healthy attitude of trying to find the silver lining, trying to be positive. And a lot of things that can help with that is music, books you read, the people you hang out with, meditation, and just simply talking to yourself, giving yourself positive affirmations, looking in the mirror saying, okay, I look good today. Or, hey, I accomplished that today. For people out there, I know there's a lot of single parents out there, a lot of single moms, and I look at you ladies, and I happen to work with women who are single mothers, and it's like, get up, get kids to school, get off work, take kids to practice, somehow manage to get the kids home, feed them dinner, get their homework done, get them into bed to wake up to do it all over again, and they're wiped out. And I've talked to them and told them, like, I'm impressed. I'm so impressed that they're able to do that by themselves, because I know how difficult that is to do when it's two of us, when it's me and my wife trying to maintain a household and get kids where they need to be and homework and all of those things. It can be crazy. But for the people who are able to do it on their own, at the end of the day, instead of, when you're wore out, when you're tired, the attitude, or your focus should just be on like, man, look at everything I got done today. Because if you started laying it out and talking about all the stuff you had to do, I guarantee there's people out there who are going to be blown away that you're able to handle it. Not that they think you can, but they know how difficult it is to do. And they're going to be proud of you. And I'm proud of you guys who are able to do it and who are willing to do it. And you do it because you love your children and you love your families and you just want to see what's best for them. That's an amazing job. And congratulations to the single parents doing it, the two parents doing it, anybody who's putting time and effort into their children. Good for you guys. I'm proud of you guys. So anyways, to keep going, emotional awareness is, childhood and emotional trauma strip a person of emotional awareness. This is knowing what you're feeling and why. Remember, the it's we talk about. The it's is emotional awareness. If you know what you're feeling, then you can be intentional in your response instead of your reaction. Like they say, listen to respond, don't listen to react. Don't listen to tell that person what you're thinking, listen to understand what they're saying, the same as you. When somebody's saying something and you get that burning sensation in your stomach, the pit of your stomach, realize where that comes from and why you feel like that. Maybe you don't need to respond right that second and take some time to think about it and come back later and talk to that person. That way you can actually respond to them in a healthy way. But that's knowing your emotional awareness. Sometimes it's that historical trauma we talked about, the intergenerational trauma we talked about, those things that we don't know why it bugs us as much as it does. But we need to start learning and being emotionally aware of the it's that drive us. So all of that, I will tell you, is easier said than done. There's so much in this world that scares us, so much in this world that freaks us out. And there's so many things in this world that just traumatize us from the day we're born up until this point. Until the day we die, we're going to have obstacles. And everybody has a unique story. My story is pretty crazy. It's pretty fun. Now that I look back on it, I'm amazed that I have been married for 21 years. I have 3 beautiful children. I have a son in college, a daughter well on her way to college, a younger daughter who is on her way to college, but she's only in middle school, but that's her trajectory. Coming from a family who did not value education, who did not value the things I currently value, family togetherness, saying I love you, quality time like that. I came from that to where I'm at now, where I make an effort to spend time with my kids. I make an effort to have time with my wife. I put an emphasis on education, and education isn't the only answer. If you are a skilled worker, a plumber, a welder, a carpenter, bricklayer, a nurse, whatever, any of those things. Well, a nurse requires education, but you guys get what I'm saying. If you have a trade, that's just as amazing as having a degree. As long as you're out there doing something that's going to contribute to your family, support your family, and contribute to society, that's awesome and amazing. You guys are resilient, especially if you're coming from families that were full of trauma and full of issues. And with that, I just want to thank everybody for listening. And if you have questions, again, reach out to me on social media and send me a message. And I look forward to getting to you guys or getting back with you guys pretty soon. Thank you. Have a good night.